Again, Champions League football. Are you not entertained, ladies and gentlemen? Inter Milan, Barcelona. Give me 3 more games of that fixture and I will happily take it. Make sure you hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe because we got a lot to talk about across the semi-finals of the Champions League. And of course, I'm going to start with what's fresh in my mind, and that is Barcelona versus Inter Milan. Like I said, are you not entertained? Coming into the fixture, I actually said when the bracket was done for both sides of the Champions League, I said if obviously inevitably Barcelona will get past their competitors, I said they would not want to match up against Inter Milan in comparison to a Bayern Munich or maybe Bayer Leverkusen, because Inter Milan I felt like could match them. They can match them for defensive ability. They can match them for duels, for recovery, to an extent attack wise, but Barcelona have the best attack and probably are the best team in Europe this season. So I knew that it would probably be an all-timer of a fixture. However, I did not anticipate that the fixture would be this entertaining. 30 seconds in and Thuram opens the scoring. And you know what? This is why I emphasize on the importance of, if you have a system, you have players that excel in those systems. Necessarily doesn't mean they would excel in another system, but as long as they excel in this system, that is the most important thing. And that's Denzel Dumfries, because he gets a lot of criticism just as being a right back, but he's not a right back, he's a right wing back, and he works in the system for Inter, he works in the system for the Netherlands, which is why he is consistently good going forward and defensively. And obviously with Inter's system under Inzaghi, there's a lot of emphasis placed on the wing backs, and we're going to come to DeMarco in a second. But Dumfries gets the assist, gets 2 goals, could have had a third goal potentially in the latter stages of the game, but the world was stunned for about 20 or so minutes because Inter went 2-0 up from a set piece. And another thing that I felt like, again, Inter Milan had over Barcelona coming into the fixture is set pieces, their ability to score from set pieces because of how good they are in the air. You know, they've got more than 4 or 5 players that are 6 foot plus, can put they got players that can put good deliveries in and can be a threat in the box, whether it's winning the first ball or the second ball. And that's exactly how they get the goal. But we are subjected to Lamine Yamal magic. 17 years old, making his 100th appearance for Barcelona, on the way to potentially a quadruple or a domestic treble. I mean, Lamine Yamal is the best footballer this season. Keyword footballer. I could even argue he's the best player pound for pound on a consistent level. Especially people place emphasis, I think, on his age. Forget the age that he's doing it at, because this is a man against kids in my eyes, even though it should be the other way around, because he's just so good. And like I said, I don't think we've seen a 17-year-old at this level probably since Neymar. I wouldn't even say Mbappe, I would actually say Neymar was the last time we've seen a 17-year-old at this level. And that's serious company to be in. Messi, Wayne Rooney, you know, amazing teenagers at this age. But there's something about Lamine Yamal that I think fans cannot keep their eyes off when he's on the ball. He absolutely butchered DeMarco, a player who I have highly praised this season. Lamine Yamal was calling for the isolation against him basically every single time. If you know basketball, you'll get that reference. They were doubling up on him, and he left DeMarco eating grass for a chance that hit the crossbar. I was stunned. And I'm sure the rest of you were stunned. And I was applauding. And just on his goal that he scored to actually help Barcelona get back into the game, Thuram doesn't really put effort in to barge him off the ball. And I think it's a very half-hearted duel from him. He leaves Mkhitaryan for dead, the little shimmy to get away from him. When Lamine Yamal comes onto his left foot, he doesn't need to fully cut onto it and take a shot. He just needs 20% of an inch. That's all he needs. He doesn't need half an inch. He needs even less than that, just to get his foot around the ball and to just alter his body, shift his body to get the shot away. And he does it so many times. If you watch him, this is his bread and butter. He can do it. And the worst thing is, opponents know what's happening, they know what's coming, and they cannot stop it. And that is the best thing about watching Lamine Yamal. On top of that today, especially in the first half, I think he rejuvenated Barcelona. 17 years old on the pitch, but he looked like the most seasoned professional out of all of them on the pitch, getting the balls into the box, whether it's the outside of the boot, whether it's the little floater passes, trying to get that comeback going for Barcelona. But on the other side, or maybe more centrally, another player that is so impactful for Barcelona is Pedri, because he gets the ball into Rafinha for that second goal. Of course, the assist goes to Rafinha, but it's just the vision for him to see the little mismatch between Bisek and Rafinha, for him to find that little floater pass, inch perfect. No defender is getting in front of that pass, and that's why I envy Barcelona so much when it comes to the talents and the products that they keep on producing. They just keep producing great talents. And I don't know if this is a stretch, guys. Maybe I'm just that gassed about his performance today, but I think Lamine Yamal, if Barcelona go on to do what people are speaking about, I think he has to be in the conversations for a top 3, top 5 podium finish in the Ballon d'Or. He has to be in those conversations. I feel like with the Ballon d'Or, of course, numbers are highly rated in it. So GA is highly rated in it. But Pedri can be in those conversations. Rafinha obviously inevitably will be in those conversations. And Yamal should rightfully be in those conversations, because he is, for me, Barcelona's best player. Forget goals, forget assists, forget all of that stuff. When we're talking about pure pound for pound, who is the best footballer for Barcelona, it's Lamine Yamal. If we're talking about who is the best footballer pound for pound in Europe, we are talking about Lamine Yamal. If you disagree, please do let me know. But I genuinely think that this tie is not over. Rafinha, by the way, with a screamer of a goal. And again, Inter Milan capitalizing on what I think is a Barcelona weakness when it comes up to taller and bigger players, set pieces. That is going to be the story going back to the San Siro next week. And I would gladly, I don't know if you lot feel like this, I would gladly watch 2-3 more games of this series. Turn it into an NBA playoff series. Give us a best of 7. I would love to watch that, because this is entertaining Champions League football. So much at stake here, especially with what's happening with Inter in the league. And obviously Barcelona trying to go back and do the treble, domestic treble, quadruple, whatever you want to call it, in Hansi Flick's first season. If Inter Milan can find a way around capitalizing off of Barcelona's high line, especially if I hope Koundé is not out, because I want both teams to have a strong team. I hope Martinez is not out as well for the next game. I think Balde is a huge miss for Rafinha. Not because Balde is this amazing player, because I think he is a very good left back, but I think it's the weight that he takes off of Rafinha in terms of the width. When you've got Ferran Torres playing through the middle, Rafinha could come in centrally a lot more, especially against the back three, to make it a 3v2, and then having Balde on the far left would have been able to utilize that space and also force Dumfries to hold the width so he cannot double team with Bisek, etc. I feel like Balde is a huge miss for Barcelona, and I think a lot of people are overlooking that. But like I said, guys, I gladly would watch 5, 6, 7 games for this tie. It's entertaining, and I cannot wait for next week, Tuesday. Let me know your thoughts down below, what you thought of the game. And then on Tuesday, we saw PSG take a 1-0 victory back to Paris in an unconvincing fashion. I think they had a couple of chances to make it 2, and equally so, Arsenal will be beating themselves up, because they definitely, especially as the momentum grew in the end of the first half, they definitely felt like they could have got a goal. And I think that is the difference maker when you look at players like Martinelli, Trossard, chances that land to them and chances that land to a player like Dembele, etc. They put it away. I mean, firstly, on both sides of the game, driving through the middle of the pitch seemed to be the answer to put both teams on the back foot, and neither team did it enough. PSG didn't do it enough. Arsenal didn't do it enough. Arsenal's best 2 chances came from the ball being driven through the middle, and I actually think that Declan Rice, Miles Lewis-Skelly and Bukayo Saka, for me, were Arsenal's best 3 players. Lewis-Skelly had a bit of a handful at first, dealing with the ever so changing Dembele, Doué, Kvaratskhelia, but I think he held his own, and I think going forward he was trying to help in the middle of the park for Arsenal, because that is where they could have caused any threat. I mean, Vitinha, you lot know my thoughts on him, man. One of the best midfielders in Europe this season. Top 3, without a doubt, alongside Pedri. Just dictating the game. Fabian Ruiz doing the dirty work for them. João Neves, small but scary. That's all I have to say. Winning draws, keeping the ball ticking for PSG, trying to find the wide players, whether there's Kvaratskhelia. I don't know if you lot noticed, but Ousmane Dembele was dropping a lot deep probably in this fixture in comparison to maybe Villa and Liverpool, etc. He was dropping a lot more deep to link up the play, which was kind of at times forcing Saliba out. I don't know if you lot saw, but Saliba was being forced out of his natural position. Kiwa being told to cover that entire central part of the back line. I feel like there's still a lot in this fixture. I feel like going into next week, Arsenal could cause an upset, but equally with saying that, PSG could run away with it at the Parc des Princes. One thing that I've learned about PSG is that there's goals there to be conceded. It's just about the opponent. And unfortunately, I think for Arsenal, I look at where the goals are going to come. I mean, Odegaard, for me, I don't know how he lasted 90 minutes. Genuinely speaking, I do not know how Odegaard lasted 90 minutes. Ranieri came on with like 3-4 minutes of extra time to go. That's not good enough. Not when your supposedly most creative midfielder is having nil impact, shying away from getting the ball forward and always trying to find the easier option of going back or going sideways. I think Ranieri should have come on slightly earlier. I get it, it's Champions League semi-final. You don't want to put pressure on a young kid. But when your captain is not stepping up like you would expect your captain to do so, I just feel like Bukayo Saka, for me, throughout that game was carrying the world on his shoulders. He was trying to do everything and his teammates were doing nothing at the same time. And that is the difference, I think, maybe with Villa, that they were able to get goals against PSG because their front line and their midfield and their back line were able to contribute. If Arsenal are going to go to PSG away with a 1-0 deficit to overcome and try and come out victorious, they need everyone to step up and contribute to the attack. Not just Saka, not just maybe Declan Rice. They're going to need everyone to contribute. It's going to be so important. And PSG, you already know, a very fluid front three, a very compact and technical midfield. I'm so envious of them, But I feel like there's errors in that back line. Nuno Mendes is a good left back, but I still think Saka had a much better game against him than Salah did. Hakimi, despite the fact that, he was bombing forward so often and got booked quite early into the game, Martinelli was trying to get at him, but Martinelli, I feel like if it was Saka going 1v1 against Hakimi, he would have got the better of him. And maybe Hakimi was lucky in that instance to be coming up against Trossard or Martinelli on the left-hand side. But Arsenal fans, let me know how you feeling. Do you feel like you guys can potentially make a comeback? I think PSG will win, but I don't think it's going to be a thing where Arsenal get blown out of the water. I think it might be another sort of performance that we saw at the Emirates where they just can't shift out of gear 2, gear 3, and PSG are going to get that goal and maybe get a second one. But all eyes for me is on Barca versus Inter, because going to the San Siro, I don't know, anything is possible. Barca could go out and Inter can be victorious, or Barcelona can just walk them off the pitch. It can be anything. You lot already know who I want to see in the final. I'm sorry, I want to see PSG versus Barcelona, because that's two of the best teams in Europe. You want to see them on the biggest stage of Europe. But let me know your thoughts down below. What did you think of both games? Who do you think will come out victorious and make their way to the final? If you are new here, please do like, comment, subscribe. You guys know what it is.